The key felt heavier than usual as I slid it into the lock. My flight had landed 3 hours early and I couldn't wait to surprise Eric. We'd been married for 6 years, and even though things had been a bit distant lately, I thought coming home early from my business trip would spark something between us again. I'd even stopped by his favorite bakery to grab those chocolate croissants he loved. The house was quiet when I stepped inside. Too quiet. I set my suitcase down gently by the door, trying to keep the surprise intact. That's when I heard it. A sound that made my blood run cold. Eric was crying. My husband never cried. Not at his father's funeral. Not when he broke his arm. Not ever. I moved toward the kitchen, my heart already racing with concern. Was someone hurt? Was something wrong with his mother? But then I heard his voice, low and broken, speaking into his phone. I can't do this anymore, Brianna. I can't keep lying to her. I froze in the hallway, hidden behind the wall that separated the living room from the kitchen. My hand flew to my mouth to stop any sound from escaping. I know, Eric continued, his voice thick with tears. But she deserves to know. God, how am I supposed to tell Vanessa that I contracted something? The doctor confirmed it yesterday. It's chlamydia. The bakery bag slipped from my fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud, but Eric didn't hear it over his own sobbing. My legs felt like they would give out beneath me. The room started spinning. Chlamydia. An STD. From someone named Brianna. I love you, but this is killing me, Eric said. She's going to find out soon anyway. I have to tell her to get tested. I can't believe I put her health at risk like this. What kind of monster am I? The kind who cheats on his wife, I thought bitterly, but the words wouldn't come out. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what I was hearing. No, don't come over, Eric said firmly. Not here. Never here. This is still her home and I've already disrespected her enough. I need to figure out how to tell her. Maybe tonight when she gets back from Denver. But I wasn't in Denver. I was right here, 10 feet away from him, listening to my entire world crumble into dust. 6 years of marriage. 6 years of trust and partnership and building a life together. And he'd thrown it all away for someone named Brianna. Someone he loved, apparently. I have to go, Eric whispered into the phone. I'll call you later. I just need time to think about how to say this without destroying her completely. Too late, I thought. I'm already destroyed. I heard him end the call, heard his ragged breathing as he tried to compose himself. I should have stormed in there. Should have confronted him right then and there. But my body wouldn't cooperate. Instead, I found myself backing away slowly, carefully, until I reached the front door. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grab my suitcase. I picked up the bakery bag from the floor, though I don't know why. Nothing made sense anymore. I slipped back outside and closed the door as quietly as I'd opened it, then stood on my own front porch like a stranger. The afternoon sun was too bright. The sky was too blue. The neighborhood looked exactly the same as it had 15 minutes ago, but my entire life had changed. How was the world still spinning? How were the birds still singing? How was Mrs. Patterson across the street still watering her garden like nothing had happened? I walked to my car in a daze and sat in the driver's seat, staring at nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Eric. Hey babe. Hope the conference is going well. Miss you. Can't wait for you to get home tomorrow. Tomorrow. He thought he had until tomorrow to figure out how to tell me. To rehearse his confession. To prepare his excuses. The anger started then, burning through the shock like acid through metal. He'd had 8 months based on what I'd just heard. 8 months of lying to my face, sleeping in our bed, kissing me goodbye every morning while carrying on an affair with this Brianna person. And now he'd given me a disease. Put my health at risk because he couldn't keep his pants zipped. The violation of it made me want to scream. But I didn't scream. I sat there in my car, parked in front of my own house, and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him yet. I wasn't going to give him the chance to manipulate the narrative or come up with lies or excuses. I was going to gather evidence. I was going to protect myself legally, financially, and physically. And then I was going to destroy his world the way he just destroyed mine. I started the car and drove away from the house. I'd come back later, pretending I'd just arrived from the airport as scheduled. I'd act normal. I'd smile and kiss him hello like I always did. And while he squirmed with guilt and tried to find the words to confess, I'd be 10 steps ahead, planning my escape from this nightmare. My phone rang. Eric's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times, then answered with a voice I didn't recognize as my own. Hey honey, I said, and I sounded so normal it scared me. What's up? I drove to a coffee shop 3 miles from our house and sat in the parking lot for an hour, just breathing. just existing in this new reality where my husband was a cheater and a liar, where our marriage was a joke, where I was at risk for an STD because of his selfish choices. Finally, I pulled myself together enough to walk inside and order something. I didn't even know what. The barista handed me a latte and I sat in the corner booth, staring at it until it got cold. My mind was racing but also completely blank. How do you process something like this? I needed a plan. I pulled out my phone and searched for divorce attorneys in our area. The word divorce felt foreign and final, but there was no other option. I wasn't one of those women who stayed after cheating. I'd always told myself that. And an affair that resulted in an STD? That was beyond forgiveness. That was dangerous. That was unforgivable. I made an appointment with a lawyer for the next morning, using a vacation day I'd planned to spend recovering from my trip. Then I opened my banking app. We had joint accounts, but I had my own savings account from before we got married. I needed to know exactly where we stood financially. Everything looked normal at first glance. Then I noticed withdrawals I didn't recognize. $200 here. $300 there. Small enough that I wouldn't have questioned them during our regular life, but now they looked like exactly what they were. Hotel rooms. Dinners. Gifts for her. My stomach turned. I took screenshots of everything, emailing them to myself at a personal email address Eric didn't know about. Evidence. I needed evidence. At 5 o'clock I drove back home. Eric's car was in the driveway. I sat in mine for a moment, preparing myself to act normal. To be the Vanessa he expected. The trusting wife who had no idea her world had ended. I grabbed my suitcase and walked to the door. Before I could reach for my keys, Eric opened it. He looked terrible. Eyes red and puffy. Face pale. He tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hey, you're home early," he said, and I heard the panic underneath the words. "I thought your flight wasn't until tomorrow morning?" "Got switched to an earlier one," I said smoothly, stepping past him into the house. The conference wrapped up faster than expected. "Aren't you happy to see me?" "Of course," he said quickly. Too quickly. "I'm always happy to see you. I wish I'd known. I would have picked you up from the airport." "It's fine. I wanted to surprise you." The lies came easily now. I set my suitcase down and turned to look at him. Really look at him. This man I'd loved for 8 years, married for 6. When had he become a stranger? "Are you okay?" I asked, gesturing to his face. "You look like you've been crying." He touched his eyes self-consciously. "Allergies. They've been terrible today." "How was Denver?" And so it began. The pretending. We made dinner together like we always did on nights when I came home from trips. We talked about the conference, about his work, about nothing and everything. All the while, I watched him struggle with his guilt. He kept opening his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closing it again. "Not yet," I thought. "Not until I'm ready." After dinner, Eric went to take a shower. The moment I heard the water running, I moved. His phone was on the kitchen counter and I knew his passcode. My hands were steady as I unlocked it and opened his messages. There she was. Brianna. Hundreds of messages going back 8 months. I scrolled through them, each one a knife to the heart. Pet names. Inside jokes. Plans to meet up. Explicit photos I immediately swiped past because I couldn't unsee them if I looked. "I love you," she'd written just that morning. "I love you too," he'd responded. "But I can't do this anymore. She deserves better than this." At least he got that part right. I took photos of the messages with my own phone, hands shaking now. Then I went through his emails. Found hotel confirmations. Found a recent email from his doctor's office with test results attached. I forwarded it all to myself, then deleted the sent messages from his trash folder. The shower was still running. I moved to his laptop in the home office. He'd been careless, staying logged into everything. More evidence. More lies. 8 months of betrayal documented in digital footprints he'd thought I'd never see. I found her Facebook profile through his messages. Brianna Carter. She worked at his company in the marketing department. Pretty young, probably 25 at most. She had photos of herself at company events, always carefully angled so Eric wouldn't be visible, but I could see his watch in one photo. His distinctive leather jacket in another. My hands clenched into fists. She knew about me. She'd known all along that he was married and she hadn't cared. They'd probably laughed about it. Poor clueless Vanessa, working late while her husband was sleeping with someone else. The shower turned off. I quickly closed everything and returned to the living room, settling on the couch with my own laptop like I'd been there the whole time. Eric emerged in his pajamas, hair damp, looking slightly less miserable now that he was clean. "Hey," he said softly, sitting next to me. I need to talk to you about something. This was it. He was going to confess. Part of me wanted to let him, just to see what lies he'd prepared. But I couldn't. I couldn't sit here and listen to him try to manipulate me when I already knew everything. Can it wait? I asked, faking a yawn. I'm exhausted from travel. Let's talk tomorrow? The relief on his face was obvious. Yeah, of course. Get some rest. But I didn't rest. That night, after Eric fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. This man I'd shared a bed with for 6 years had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And tomorrow I would begin the process of making him pay for it. The next morning, I woke up before Eric and went straight to my doctor's office. I'd called the moment they opened and explained the situation. They fit me in immediately. The nurse's sympathetic expression made me want to cry, but I held it together. I gave blood samples and urine samples and answered humiliating questions about my sexual history. The results will take a few days, Dr. Morrison said gently. She was a kind woman in her 50s who'd been my doctor for 3 years. But I'm starting you on antibiotics today as a precaution. Chlamydia is treatable if caught early. Try not to worry too much. Try not to worry. My husband had cheated on me and given me an STD, but sure, I try not to worry. I need documentation of everything, I told her. For legal purposes. She nodded, understanding immediately. I'll make sure you have copies of all test results and treatment records. I'm so sorry you're going through this, Vanessa. I met with my attorney next. Margaret Chin was a woman with steel gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She listened to my story without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. You have excellent documentation, she said when I finished, showing her all the screenshots and photos I'd gathered. This will make the divorce proceedings much smoother. Infidelity doesn't affect the legal dissolution much in our state, but it does matter for asset division in some cases, and it certainly affects public perception. I want everything documented, I said firmly. I want him to face consequences. He will, Margaret promised. But first you need to tell him you know. Do you want to do it alone, or would you like me present? Alone, I said. I need to see his face when I tell him. I went home around noon. Eric had taken the day off work, probably planning to make his confession. He was in the kitchen when I walked in and he jumped slightly when he saw me. Hey, he said nervously. Where were you? Doctor's appointment, I said calmly, setting my purse on the counter. Getting tested for chlamydia. You know, the STD my husband gave me because he's been sleeping with someone named Brianna for 8 months. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Vanessa, I cut him off, my voice ice cold. Don't you dare try to explain or make excuses. I heard you on the phone 2 days ago when I came home early. I heard everything. And then I found all your messages, all the hotel receipts, all the lies. He sank into a chair, head in his hands. Oh God. Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I never meant. You never meant what? I demanded, my voice rising. You never meant to cheat? You never meant to have an affair for 8 months? You never meant to give me a disease? Which part was the accident, Eric? None of it, he whispered. I mean all of it. I made terrible choices. I got caught up in something and I didn't know how to stop it. But I love you. I've always loved you. Don't you dare talk to me about love, I hissed. You don't betray someone you love. You don't put their health at risk. You don't lie to their face every single day while sleeping with someone else. It just happened, he said desperately. Brianna and I were working late on a project and we started talking and it just happened. I never planned it. 8 months doesn't just happen, I shot back. 8 months is a choice you made every single day. Every time you texted her. Every time you met her at a hotel. Every time you came home and kissed me while smelling like her perfume. He was crying now, ugly sobs that would have moved me before. Now they just made me angry. Please, Vanessa. Please let me make this right. I'll do anything. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job. I'll never speak to her again. Just please don't leave me. You should have thought about that before you stuck your dick in someone else, I said bluntly, and he flinched at my language. I never talked like that. But I wasn't the same Vanessa anymore. That Vanessa had died 2 days ago in the hallway. I'm filing for divorce, I continued. I've already met with an attorney. You're going to move out today. Pack what you need and get out of my house. Our house, he corrected weakly. My house, I repeated firmly. My name is on the deed too, and I'm the one who didn't cheat. So get out. Where am I supposed to go? He asked, looking lost. I don't care, I said honestly. Go to Brianna's. Go to a hotel. Go to hell for all I care. Just get out of my sight. He stood up slowly, looking at me like I was a stranger. You're being really cold about this. I laughed, a harsh sound with no humor in it. Cold? You want to see cold? You gave me an STD, Eric. You risked my health, my life for an affair. And you have the nerve to call me cold? I didn't know I had it, he protested. I would never have. You would never have what? Touched me? You did touch me. Multiple times. While you were sleeping with her. You exposed me to God knows what. The doctor said chlamydia is treatable, but what if it had been something worse? What if it had been HIV? His face went white. It wasn't, but it could have been. I shouted. You had unprotected sex with someone outside our marriage. You had no idea what she might have had. And then you came home to me. The full weight of what he'd done seemed to hit him then. He collapsed back into the chair looking sick. I'm so sorry. God, Vanessa, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said, my voice breaking for the first time. Sorry doesn't give me back 6 years of trust. Sorry doesn't undo the betrayal. Sorry is just a word you're saying because you got caught. I was going to tell you, he insisted. That's what you heard on the phone. I was finally going to tell you everything. Because you had to, I pointed out. Because I needed to get tested. Not because you wanted to come clean. You would have kept lying if you could have. He couldn't deny it. We both knew it was true. Pack your things, I said quietly. I want you gone in an hour. My attorney will be in touch about the divorce proceedings. Don't contact me except through her. Vanessa, please. Get out. I screamed and he jumped. Get out of my house right now. He finally moved, heading upstairs to pack. I stood in the kitchen, shaking with adrenaline and grief and rage. This was my life now. Divorce. Betrayal. Starting over. But at least I'd have my self-respect. At least I'd never have to wonder if I was weak for staying. I was strong enough to leave, and that was something. When Eric came downstairs with 2 suitcases 45 minutes later, I was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. He paused at the door. I really do love you, he said softly. No, you don't, I replied without looking at him. You love the idea of me. You love having someone at home while you play around. But you don't love me. If you did, none of this would have happened. He left without another word. I heard his car start, heard him drive away. And then I was alone in the house we'd shared, in the life we'd built, with nothing but the wreckage of his choices. I didn't cry. Not yet. First, I had work to do. I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. Then I called my insurance company and removed him from my policy. Then I transferred money from our joint account into my personal account, exactly half of what was there. By the time the sun set, I'd systematically removed Eric from my life in every practical way I could. The emotional part would take longer. But I'd made a start. And tomorrow I'd keep going. The next week was a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and paperwork. Margaret worked fast, filing the divorce petition and serving Eric with papers at his office. He'd apparently moved in with a friend, not Brianna, which surprised me. Maybe she'd realized she didn't want to cheat her either. Eric tried calling me 17 times that first day after I kicked him out. Then 23 times the day after. I blocked his number. He sent emails. I filtered them to a folder I didn't read. He showed up at my workplace and I had security escort him out. He wasn't going to manipulate me with tears and apologies. That ship had sailed. My test results came back positive for chlamydia, just as we'd expected. Dr. Morrison assured me the antibiotics would clear it up, but the violation of it burned. I'd been faithful. I'd been careful. And I still got sick because of his choices. I forwarded the medical records to Margaret. More evidence. More proof of his betrayal. He's contesting the asset division, Margaret told me during our third meeting. He wants half of everything, including the house. Absolutely not, I said firmly. I'm not giving him anything more than the law requires. He destroyed our marriage. He doesn't get rewarded for that. The court doesn't usually care about infidelity when dividing assets, Margaret warned. But we can fight it. We can make it expensive for him. Do it, I said. I don't care what it costs me. He needs to understand there are consequences. Margaret smiled slightly. You're one of the strongest clients I've ever had. Most people waver when it comes to actually fighting. I'm not most people, I replied. That was becoming my mantra. I wasn't the woman who took her cheating husband back. I wasn't the woman who forgave and forgot. I wasn't the woman who prioritized keeping the peace over demanding respect. I was someone new. Someone harder. Someone who wouldn't be hurt like this again. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into my projects, staying late, taking on extra assignments. My boss noticed and pulled me aside one day. "Vanessa, you're doing amazing work," she said. "But you look exhausted. Is everything okay?" I almost lied. Almost said everything was fine. But I was tired of lying, tired of pretending. "I'm getting divorced," I told her. "My husband cheated. I'm dealing with it." Her expression softened. "I'm so sorry. Take whatever time you need. And if you need to talk, I'm here." I appreciated the offer, but I didn't take her up on it. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted success. I wanted to prove that I didn't need Eric, that I was better without him. The divorce proceedings dragged on. Eric fought me on everything: the house, the car, the furniture. His attorney painted him as the victim, claiming I'd kicked him out without warning and frozen him out of our accounts. My attorney presented the evidence of his affair, the STD, the lies. The judge was not sympathetic to Eric. "Mr. Patterson," she said during one of our hearings, "you put your wife's health at risk through your extramarital affair. You lied extensively. You violated her trust. While infidelity itself doesn't determine asset division in this state, your actions demonstrate a pattern of deception that this court finds troubling." Eric's face went red. His attorney whispered something to him and he nodded. "Your Honor," Eric said, standing up, "I'd like to address my wife directly." "No," the judge said firmly. "This is not the time or place for that. If you have something to say, direct it through your attorney." But he turned to me anyway, ignoring the judge's warning. "Vanessa, please. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed everything. But we had 6 good years before this. Doesn't that count for something?" "Mr. Patterson, sit down," the judge ordered. "Doesn't our love mean anything?" Eric continued desperately. "I made a mistake. An 8-month mistake," I said coldly. "No, Eric. It doesn't count for anything. You threw away 6 years of marriage for someone else. You made your choice." "Bailiff, remove Mr. Patterson from the courtroom if he doesn't sit down immediately," the judge said, her voice like steel. Eric finally sat, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I felt nothing looking at him. No sympathy. No love. Nothing. The hearing ended with the judge ordering us to mediation. "You two need to work this out without tying up my courtroom," she said firmly. "I'm giving you 30 days to reach an agreement, or I'll decide for you, and neither of you will be happy with the result." Mediation was torture. Eric kept trying to negotiate for more than he deserved. Kept trying to catch my eye, to make me remember the good times. But I remembered everything now. Every time he'd said he was working late. Every business trip that might have been fake. Every guy's night out, that might have been her. "I'm offering you the car and 20% of our savings," Margaret told his attorney. "That's more than generous considering the circumstances." "My client wants the house," his attorney countered. "Your client can want whatever he likes," Margaret replied smoothly. "He's not getting the house. Mrs. Patterson has sole ownership of the property as of 3 days ago. She refinanced in her name only and paid off Mr. Patterson's portion of the equity." Eric's face went pale. "You bought me out?" "Through the proper legal channels," I said. "You got a check. You cashed it. The house is mine." "But that was our home," he said, his voice breaking. "It's my home now," I corrected. "You gave up the right to call it ours when you brought her into our marriage." "I never brought her to the house," he protested. "Physically, no," I agreed. "But every time you came home smelling like her, thinking about her, wishing you were with her instead of me, you brought her into our home. You brought her into our bed. You tainted everything." The mediator cleared her throat. "Let's focus on reaching an agreement." It took 3 more sessions, but we finally settled. Eric got the car, some of the savings, and half of the furniture. I got the house, my retirement accounts, and most of our joint assets. It wasn't exactly fair, but it was enough. "I'll sign," Eric said quietly on the last day. "But I want you to know I never stopped loving you." "Then you have a really messed up definition of love," I replied and signed my own name with a flourish. The divorce would be final in 60 days. Just 60 more days and I'd be free of him forever. While my divorce was being finalized, karma came for Eric in a way I never expected. His affair with Brianna hadn't been as secret as they'd thought. Someone at his company found out and reported it to Human Resources. I learned about it from Margaret. "Eric's company is conducting an investigation," she told me over the phone. "Apparently there's a policy against supervisors dating subordinates. Brianna works under Eric's department." "He was her supervisor?" I asked, a new wave of disgust washing over me. "He never mentioned that. Probably because it makes him look even worse," Margaret replied. If the investigation finds he abused his position of power, he could lose his job. They're taking it seriously because of the power imbalance. Part of me felt vindicated. Eric was finally facing professional consequences for his actions. But another part of me felt drained. I just wanted it all to be over. 2 weeks later, Eric was fired. His attorney tried to use it as leverage to get more money in the divorce settlement. My client has lost his income, his lawyer argued. He can't afford the agreement we reached. Your client lost his income due to his own misconduct, Margaret countered. That's not Mrs. Patterson's problem. The agreement stands. The judge agreed. Eric had to sell his car to pay what he owed me. He moved out of his friend's place and into a small apartment. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard he was working at a company 2 levels below where he'd been, making significantly less money. Meanwhile, I was thriving at work. My boss had nominated me for a promotion and I got it. I was now a senior manager with a substantial raise and a team of my own. The timing felt like the universe telling me I'd made the right choice. But success at work didn't erase the damage Eric had done. I started therapy on my doctor's recommendation. Dr. Lisa Freeman was a black woman in her 40s who specialized in trauma and betrayal. I liked her immediately. What you experienced was traumatic, she told me in our first session. Infidelity is a form of betrayal trauma. It affects your ability to trust, your sense of safety, your self-esteem. I don't feel like myself anymore, I admitted. I used to be more open, more trusting. Now I question everything and everyone. That's a normal response, Dr. Freeman said gently. Your brain is trying to protect you from being hurt again. We'll work on helping you heal while still maintaining healthy boundaries. Therapy became my safe space. A place where I could cry without feeling weak. A place where I could admit how much Eric's betrayal had broken me. A place where I could start putting the pieces back together. I also started reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I hadn't realized how isolated I'd become. Eric had never forbidden me from seeing friends, but he'd always made it difficult. Always had something else planned. Always needed me for something. Now, without him, I was free to build the life I wanted. My best friend from college, Tamara, flew in from Atlanta to spend a weekend with me. We'd been close once, but we'd drifted apart over the years. Seeing her again reminded me of who I used to be before Eric. I never liked him, Tamara admitted over wine on my newly purchased couch. I know I should have said something, but you seemed happy. I thought I was happy, I said. But looking back, I can see all the red flags I ignored. He always needed to know where I was. He checked my phone. He got jealous when I spent time with other people. Classic controlling behavior, Tamara said, nodding. But you didn't see it because he was subtle about it. I feel so stupid, I confessed. You're not stupid, Tamara said firmly. You're human. You trusted someone you loved. That's not a character flaw. His betrayal says everything about him and nothing about you. I repeated those words to myself often in the following weeks. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't done anything to deserve this. Eric had made his choices and now he was living with the consequences. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning. I went to the courthouse alone, signed the final papers, and walked out a single woman. I felt lighter immediately. The weight I'd been carrying for months finally lifted. That night, I celebrated with Tamara and a few other friends. We went to a nice restaurant, drank too much champagne, and laughed until our sides hurt. For the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. To new beginnings, Tamara toasted, raising her glass. To new beginnings, I echoed, clinking my glass against hers. The first thing I did after the divorce was finalized was redecorate the house. I wanted to erase every trace of Eric, every memory of our life together. I hired an interior designer and told her to make it completely different. Out went the boring beige walls Eric had insisted on. In came vibrant blues and warm terracotta. Out went his massive leather couch. In came a comfortable sectional in soft gray. I replaced the bed we'd shared with a new one, bought all new sheets, and created a bedroom that felt like mine alone. The transformation was satisfying. This house was my sanctuary now, not a museum of a failed marriage. I also started doing things I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. I joined a painting class at the community center. I was terrible at it, but I didn't care. It was fun, and I met other people who were just painting for the joy of it. I started running in the mornings, something Eric had always complained about because I'd wake him up. Now I could run whenever I wanted, and I found I loved the solitude of it. The rhythm of my feet on the pavement. The way my mind cleared with each mile. I went to concerts alone. Movies alone. Dinners alone. And I learned that alone didn't mean lonely. It meant free. Work continued to go well. My team respected me and I found I had a talent for leadership. I was fair but firm and people responded to that. My boss mentioned that I was being considered for even higher positions in the company. "You've really come into your own this year," she said during my performance review. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." What I was doing was focusing on myself for the first time in years. Prioritizing my needs. Setting boundaries. Saying no when I wanted to say no. It was revolutionary. One Saturday afternoon, I was at the farmer's market when I ran into Eric's mother, Patricia. I'd always liked her, and the divorce had been hard on our relationship. She tried to convince me to forgive Eric, to give him another chance, and I'd had to cut off contact. "Vanessa," she said, looking surprised. "How are you?" "I'm good," I said honestly. "Really good, actually. How are you?" "I'm okay," she said, though she looked tired. "I've been worried about Eric. He's been struggling." I felt a flicker of something, not sympathy, exactly, but not satisfaction either. Just indifference. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said politely. "He asks about you," Patricia continued. "He wants to know if you'd be willing to talk to him. He says he's changed." "I'm sure he has," I replied. "But that doesn't change what he did. I've moved on, Patricia. I hope you can understand that." Her eyes filled with tears. "He made a terrible mistake. But he's my son. I love him." "And I get that," I said gently. "You should love him. You're his mother. But I don't have to. I don't owe him forgiveness or another chance. I deserve better than what he gave me." "You do," she agreed quietly. "I just wish things had ended differently." "So do I said. "But they didn't. Take care of yourself, Patricia." I walked away feeling sad but resolute. I bore Patricia no ill will, but I couldn't maintain a relationship with her when she kept pushing me to reconnect with Eric. I had to protect my peace. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Brianna. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment. The mistress wanted to talk. Part of me was curious what she could possibly have to say, but a bigger part of me knew that nothing good could come from engaging with her. I blocked the number without responding. She didn't deserve my time or energy. 3 months after the divorce, I took my first solo vacation. I went to Puerto Rico for a week, stayed at a beautiful resort, and spent my days reading on the beach and my nights exploring the city. It was peaceful, restorative. On my last night there, I sat on the balcony of my hotel room and reflected on how far I'd come. 6 months ago, I'd been devastated, broken, convinced I'd never feel whole again. Now, I felt stronger than ever. I'd rebuilt my life from the ground up. I'd learned that I didn't need a partner to be complete. I was enough all on my own. That didn't mean I'd sworn off relationships forever. But it meant that whoever I dated next would have to earn my trust, would have to prove they deserved a place in my life. I had standards now. Boundaries. Self-respect. I wasn't the same woman Eric had married. I was better. I'd been divorced for 4 months when Eric started showing up again. Not physically at first, but in every other way possible. He created new email addresses to get around my blocks. He sent messages through mutual friends. He had his mother call me. "He's really struggling," Patricia said during one particularly persistent call. "He lost his apartment. He's living out of his car." "That's not my problem," I said, though I felt a twinge of something uncomfortable. Not guilt exactly, but close to it. "He needs help, Vanessa. He's your husband." "Ex-husband," I corrected. "And he made his choices. He has to live with them." But Patricia's words stayed with me. Not because I wanted to help Eric, but because I worried he might escalate. And I was right to worry. The first time Eric showed up at my house, it was 11 o'clock on a Wednesday night. I'd just gotten home from dinner with friends when I saw him sitting on my front steps. My heart rate spiked immediately. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, staying by my car. "I needed to see you," he said, standing up. He looked terrible. Thin, with hollow eyes and rumpled clothes. "Please, Vanessa. Just give me 5 minutes." "No," I said firmly. "You need to leave. Now." "I have nowhere else to go," he said, and his voice cracked. "I lost everything. My job, my apartment, my savings. I'm living in my car. And that's unfortunate," I said, meaning it. "But it's not my responsibility. You created this situation. Because of you," he suddenly shouted, and I took a step back. "You destroyed my life. You got me fired. You took everything." "I got you fired?" I repeated, anger replacing my caution. "You got yourself fired by sleeping with your subordinate?" "I took what was legally mine in the divorce." You did this to yourself. I made one mistake, he said desperately. One mistake in 6 years and you ruined my entire life over it. One mistake that lasted 8 months, I reminded him. One mistake that gave me an STD. One mistake that destroyed 6 years of trust. Don't minimize what you did. I've apologized, he said. I've tried to make it right. What more do you want from me? Nothing, I said honestly. I want nothing from you. I want you to leave me alone and move on with your life. I can't move on, he said, moving closer. I love you. I need you. Stop, I said, pulling out my phone. If you take one more step toward me, I'm calling the police. He froze, looking at me like I'd slapped him. You'd really call the cops on me? Without hesitation, I confirmed. You're on my property uninvited. You're making me uncomfortable. Leave now or I make the call. He stared at me for another moment, then turned and walked away. I watched him get into his car, not his old car, but an older, beat-up sedan, and drive off. My hands were shaking as I unlocked my door and went inside. I called Margaret first thing the next morning. He's starting to escalate, I told her. He showed up at my house last night. Document everything, Margaret advised. Keep a record of every contact. If he shows up again, call the police immediately. You might need a restraining order. Eric showed up 3 more times that week. Once at my workplace, where security had to escort him out. Once at the gym I belonged to. Once at the grocery store. Each time he begged me to take him back. Each time I refused and documented the encounter. After the 4th incident, I filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it immediately based on the pattern of harassment. Mr. Patterson, you are to stay at least 100 yards away from Ms. Brooks at all times, the judge said. You may not contact her directly or indirectly. You may not go to her home, her workplace, or any location where you know she'll be. Do you understand? This is insane, Eric said. She's my wife. Ex-wife, the judge corrected. And if you violate this order, you'll be arrested. Do you understand? Yes, Eric said bitterly, glaring at me. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Eric's family started calling me. His mother, his sister, even his father, who I'd only met a handful of times. They all had the same message. Eric was falling apart and it was my fault. You should help him, his sister Amanda said. He's family. He's not my family anymore, I replied. And even if he was, I'm not responsible for fixing the mess he made. You're being cruel, Amanda accused. He made a mistake. We all make mistakes. Not all mistakes are equal, I said. And I don't owe him forgiveness or help. I'm done with this conversation. I blocked the family members too. I felt bad about it. They weren't the ones who cheated, but they were making me feel guilty for protecting myself, and I wouldn't allow that. Brianna tried to contact me again, this time through a mutual acquaintance. She says she wants to apologize, my acquaintance told me. She feels terrible about everything. She should feel terrible, I said. But I don't want her apology. I want her to leave me alone. She says Eric is harassing her now, the acquaintance continued, blaming her for everything that happened. She's scared. Then she should call the police, I said without sympathy. I'm not getting involved in whatever drama they have going on. That's harsh, Vanessa. Maybe, I agreed. But I'm protecting my peace. She made her choices. She gets to live with them too. Life settled down after the restraining order. Eric stopped showing up, stopped trying to contact me. I heard through the grapevine that he'd moved to another state, starting over somewhere new. I felt relief more than anything. I protected myself, set boundaries, refused to be manipulated. And now I could finally, truly move on. 7 months after my divorce was finalized, my company sent me to a professional conference in Chicago. I wasn't particularly excited about it. 3 days of networking and panel discussions sounded exhausting, but my boss insisted it would be good for my career. I was sitting in the hotel lobby, reviewing the conference schedule on my tablet, when someone sat down in the chair across from me. Is this seat taken? He asked, and I looked up. He was handsome in an understated way. Dark skin, kind eyes, a genuine smile. He wore a conference badge that read, Isaiah Montgomery, Chief Operations Officer. It's all yours, I said, returning to my tablet. First time at this conference? He asked. Yeah, I replied, not particularly interested in small talk. You? 4th year attending, he said. It's actually pretty good once you figure out which sessions are worthwhile and which ones are just buzzword bingo. I smiled despite myself. Buzzword bingo? You know, he said, grinning. When they say synergy, and leveraging core competencies 15 times without actually saying anything useful. I laughed genuinely this time. Okay, so which session should I avoid? Anything with disruption in the title, he said seriously. And the breakfast networking events are terrible. The food is bad and everyone's too tired to actually network. Good to know, I said. Thanks for the tips. I'm Isaiah, he said, extending his hand. Vanessa, I replied, shaking it. His grip was firm but not aggressive. Professional. We talked for a few more minutes before I excused myself to check into my room. I didn't think much of the interaction until I saw Isaiah again at the opening keynote. He'd saved me a seat. Figured you could use a friendly face, he said as I sat down. Over the next 3 days, Isaiah and I kept running into each other. At panel discussions. At lunch. At the evening networking events that turned out to be less terrible than advertised. We talked about work, about the industry, about safe, professional topics. On the last night, a group of us went to dinner at a restaurant near the hotel. Isaiah ended up sitting next to me, and the conversation shifted to more personal territory. So what do you do when you're not working? He asked. Lately? I've been painting, I said. I'm terrible at it, but it's relaxing. I bet you're not as terrible as you think, he said. People are always harder on themselves than they should be. What about you? I asked. I coach youth basketball, he said. It keeps me grounded. Those kids don't care about quarterly earnings or market share. They just want to learn and have fun. There was something genuine about him. Something that felt safe. I found myself wanting to keep talking to him. After dinner, we walked back to the hotel together. The Chicago night was cool but pleasant and we took our time. Can I ask you something personal? Isaiah said as we reached the hotel entrance. Sure, I said, though I tensed slightly. Are you single? He asked. I don't want to overstep, but I'd like to stay in touch after the conference. If that's something you'd be interested in. I hesitated. I'd sworn off dating. Sworn off trusting men. But Isaiah had been nothing but respectful and kind. I'm single, I said slowly. But I'm also recently divorced. Like very recently. And it didn't end well. I appreciate your honesty, he said. I'm not trying to rush anything. I just think you're interesting and I'd like to get to know you better. As friends, if that's all you're comfortable with. Friends. That felt manageable. Safe. Okay, I said. Friends. We exchanged numbers and over the next few weeks, we texted occasionally. Just friendly messages. How was your day? Check out this article. That kind of thing. Isaiah never pushed for more. Never asked me out. Never made me feel pressured. And gradually I started to trust him. 2 months after the conference, Isaiah's company brought him to my city for a project. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee and I said yes. We met at a cafe downtown on a Saturday afternoon. Sitting across from him, I realized how much I'd missed having someone to talk to. Really talk to. Not about work or surface level things but about life. Can I ask what happened with your marriage? Isaiah said carefully. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I took a breath. He cheated. For 8 months. Gave me an STD. When I found out, I left him. No second chances. Isaiah's expression darkened. That's awful. I'm so sorry. I'm not, I said honestly. I mean, I'm sorry it happened. But I'm not sorry I left. It taught me a lot about what I will and won't accept. That's a healthy perspective, Isaiah said. A lot of people would have stayed and tried to make it work. I'm not a lot of people, I said, echoing the words that had become my motto. No, Isaiah agreed, smiling. You're definitely not. We started seeing each other more regularly after that. Always casual. Always friendly. Isaiah never tried to kiss me or hold my hand. He respected my boundaries completely. 3 months into our friendship, I realized I wanted more. But the thought terrified me. What if I was wrong about him? What if he turned out to be like Eric? I talked to Dr. Freeman about it in therapy. Not everyone is Eric, she reminded me gently. You can't let his betrayal stop you from ever trusting anyone again. But how do I know? I asked. How do I know Isaiah won't hurt me? You don't, she said honestly. There's no guarantee. But Isaiah has shown you through consistent actions who he is. He's been patient. He's respected your boundaries. He's been honest. Those are good signs. I thought about that for days. Finally, I decided to take a risk. I invited Isaiah over for dinner. I cooked his favorite meal, set the table, and when he arrived, I was nervous in a way I hadn't been in months. This looks amazing, he said, taking in the spread I'd prepared. I wanted to do something nice, I said. You've been really patient with me. You're worth being patient for, he said simply. After dinner we sat on my couch with wine talking about everything and nothing. And then, in a moment of courage, I leaned over and kissed him. He kissed me back, gentle and careful, like he was afraid I'd break. When we pulled apart, he was smiling. I've wanted to do that for months, he admitted. Why didn't you? I asked. Because I wanted you to be ready, he said. I wanted it to be your choice. That's when I knew. Isaiah wasn't Eric. He wasn't going to rush me or pressure me or lie to me. He was someone who genuinely cared about me, who respected me, who saw me as an equal partner. I think I'm ready, I said softly, to try this, if you still want to. I definitely want to, he said, taking my hand. But we go at your pace. Whatever you're comfortable with. We took it slow. Painfully slow sometimes. But Isaiah never complained. He understood that trust had to be rebuilt, that I'd been hurt in ways that would take time to heal. And gradually I started to believe in love again. Not the fairy tale kind. The real kind. The kind built on honesty and respect and patience. The 1-year anniversary of finding Eric in the kitchen crying approached like a storm cloud. I'd been doing so well, moving forward, building a new life. But the anniversary brought everything back with painful clarity. Dr. Freeman had warned me about this. Anniversaries can be triggering, she'd said. Even when you've done the work to heal. Be gentle with yourself. I took the day off work, planning to spend it alone. Isaiah offered to come over, but I told him I needed to process this by myself. He understood, which was just one more reason I loved him. Yes, loved. I'd admitted it to myself, though I hadn't told him yet. I was sitting on my couch, drinking coffee and staring at nothing when my doorbell rang. For a split second, I worried it might be Eric, restraining order or not. But when I checked the peephole, it was a delivery person with a package. I signed for it and brought it inside. No return address. No indication of who'd sent it. I opened it carefully and inside was a letter. Eric's handwriting. My first instinct was to throw it away unread. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened the envelope and started reading. Vanessa, I know I'm not supposed to contact you. I know I have a restraining order. But I'm sending this through a friend, so technically I'm not violating it. I need you to know that I'm sorry. I've spent this entire year thinking about what I did and why I did it, and I finally understand how badly I hurt you. I was selfish. I was weak. I got caught up in the excitement of something new and I forgot about the commitment I made to you. I forgot that you were a real person with real feelings. I treated you like you were just there, like you'd always be there no matter what I did. I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I wanted you to know that losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Not losing my job or my apartment or my reputation. Losing you. Because you were the best thing in my life and I threw you away. I'm in California now. I got a job at a small tech startup. It pays a fraction of what I used to make, but it's honest work. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to be a better person, not for you, but because I don't want to be the person who hurt you anymore. I heard you're seeing someone. I'm happy for you. I mean that. You deserve someone who will treat you the way I should have. Someone who sees your worth and never makes you doubt it. I'm not asking you to respond to this letter. I'm not asking for anything at all. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'll spend the rest of my life regretting what I did to you. I hope you're happy, Vanessa. I hope you're living the life you deserve. Eric. I read the letter 3 times, looking for manipulation or hidden agendas. But it seemed genuine. Sincere even. Eric had finally taken responsibility for his actions without making excuses or trying to minimize what he'd done. I sat with the letter for a long time, processing how I felt. And I realized I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no lingering hurt. Just nothing. Eric was part of my past, a chapter that was closed and done. I took the letter to my fireplace, a new feature I'd added during the renovation, and burned it. I watched the paper curl and blacken and turn to ash. It felt symbolic. Cleansing. That evening, Isaiah came over with takeout and flowers. How are you doing? He asked carefully. I'm okay, I said honestly. Actually, I'm better than okay. Eric sent me a letter today. Isaiah's expression darkened. What did it say? Basically that he's sorry and he hopes I'm happy, I summarized. No manipulation. No begging. Just closure, I guess. How do you feel about it? Isaiah asked. I feel nothing, I said. And that's how I know I've healed. He doesn't have power over me anymore. He's just someone I used to know. Isaiah smiled and pulled me into a hug. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of me too, I said. We spent the evening together, eating Chinese food and watching movies. And at some point, curled up on the couch with Isaiah's arm around me, I realized something important. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Safe, comfortable, easy. Not the anxiety-inducing walking on eggshells feeling I'd had with Eric toward the end. This was partnership, equality, respect. Isaiah, I said during a quiet moment. Yeah. I love you, I said, the words easier than I'd expected. I know we've only been together for a few months, but I love you. And I wanted you to know. His smile was brilliant. I love you too, Vanessa. I have for a while now. I was just waiting for you to be ready to hear it. I'm ready, I said. For all of it. For this relationship, for the future, for whatever comes next. I'm ready. We kissed and it felt like a promise. A commitment. The start of something real and lasting. The next week, Patricia called me. It was the first time she'd contacted me since I'd asked her to stop months ago. Vanessa, I wanted to apologize, she said. I've been unfair to you. I pushed you to forgive Eric when I should have respected your decision. I let my love for my son blind me to what he did to you. I appreciate that, I said, surprised by the apology. Eric told me he sent you a letter, she continued. He said it was just to apologize, not to try to get you back. I hope it didn't upset you. It didn't, I assured her. It was actually good closure. I'm doing really well, Patricia. I hope Eric is too. He's getting there, she said. He's still dealing with the consequences of his choices, but he's working on himself. And I think he finally understands what he lost. We talked for a few more minutes before saying goodbye. I didn't expect we'd have a relationship going forward, but the call felt like another piece of closure. Another chapter ending cleanly. That night, I updated my journal, something Dr. Freeman had encouraged me to keep. I wrote about the letter, about the phone call with Patricia, about telling Isaiah I loved him. And then I wrote something I'd been thinking about for weeks. A year ago, my life fell apart. I discovered my husband's betrayal and my world shattered. I thought I'd never recover. I thought I'd never trust again. I thought I'd never be happy again. But I was wrong. I did recover. I did learn to trust again, carefully and cautiously. And I am happy. Happier than I've been in years. Maybe happier than I've ever been. Eric's betrayal wasn't the end of my story. It was just the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. And this chapter is so much better than I ever imagined it could be. I closed the journal and looked around my home. My sanctuary. The life I'd built from the ruins of my marriage. And I smiled. I'd gotten my revenge not through anger or bitterness, but by refusing to let Eric's betrayal define me. By building a life so good, so full, so authentically mine, that his actions became irrelevant. That was the best revenge of all. 18 months after finding Eric crying in the kitchen, I stood in front of a mirror in a hotel suite, adjusting my dress. Tonight was the company awards dinner, and I was being honored as manager of the year. It felt surreal. You look beautiful, Isaiah said from behind me, and I turned to smile at him. He was wearing a sharp suit, looking handsome and proud. Thank you, I said. For being here. For everything. There's nowhere else I'd rather be, he replied, kissing my forehead. We arrived at the dinner together, and I was immediately swept up in conversations with colleagues and executives. My boss pulled me aside at one point. Vanessa, I wanted to talk to you about something, she said. We're opening a new division and we want you to lead it. It would mean a significant promotion and raise. Are you interested? Absolutely, I said without hesitation. A year ago, I might have worried about whether I was qualified or good enough. Now I knew my worth. The awards ceremony was lovely. When my name was called, I walked to the stage with my head held high. I accepted the award and gave a brief speech about the importance of resilience and self-advocacy. A year and a half ago, I went through something that could have broken me, I said to the audience. But instead of letting it define me, I chose to use it as fuel. I worked harder. I pushed myself further. I refused to be a victim of circumstances. And that's what I want to encourage all of you to do. When life knocks you down, get back up stronger. That's what we're capable of. The applause was thunderous. Isaiah was on his feet, clapping and smiling. I felt invincible. After the ceremony, we went back to my place. Isaiah had been staying over more and more frequently, and we'd started talking about moving in together. The idea didn't scare me the way it might have 6 months ago. I trusted him completely. I'm so proud of you, Isaiah said as we settled on the couch with wine. You've accomplished so much. We've accomplished so much, I corrected. You've been such a huge part of my healing and growth. You did the work, he insisted. I just showed up and supported you. That's not nothing, I said seriously. Showing up matters. Consistency matters. You taught me that not all men are like Eric. That I could trust again. Isaiah took my hand. Vanessa, I want to talk to you about something. My heart rate picked up slightly. Okay. I love you, he said. More than I've ever loved anyone. And I know we've only been together for about 8 months, but I want a future with you. I want to wake up next to you every day. I want to build a life with you. I want that too, I said softly. I'm not asking you to marry me, he clarified quickly. I know you need more time after everything you went through. I just want you to know that when you're ready, whenever that is, I'll be here. I'm all in. I felt tears prick my eyes, but they were happy tears. I love you so much. I love you too, he said, pulling me close. We sat there together, planning our future. Talking about moving in together, about traveling, about all the possibilities ahead of us. It felt right in a way nothing with Eric ever had. The next morning, I woke up to sunshine streaming through my bedroom window. Isaiah was still asleep beside me, and I took a moment to just appreciate the peace I felt. The safety. The contentment. My phone buzzed with a text from Tamara. Saw your award announcement on LinkedIn. So proud of you, girl. When are we celebrating? I smiled and typed back. Next weekend? And bring your new girlfriend. I want to meet her. Life was good. Better than good. It was full and rich and exactly what I'd needed it to be. I got up and made coffee, then sat on my back porch watching the morning unfold. I thought about where I'd been a year and a half ago. Devastated. Betrayed. Convinced my life was over. But my life hadn't ended. It had just begun. I'd learned that I was stronger than I ever knew. That I didn't need a partner to be complete. That I could rebuild from nothing and create something beautiful. That trust could be restored with the right person. That love didn't have to hurt. Eric had tried to break me whether he meant to or not. But instead he'd freed me. Freed me from a marriage that wasn't serving me. Freed me to become the person I was always meant to be. Freed me to find real love with someone who valued me. My phone rang. It was my mother calling for our weekly check-in. Hi, Mom, I answered, smiling. Hi, sweetheart. I saw the award announcement. I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Mom. Are you happy? She asked, and I heard the concern in her voice. She'd been worried about me for so long. I am, I said honestly. I'm really truly happy. Good, she said, and I could hear her smiling. That's all I want for you. After we hung up, I sat for a while longer, drinking my coffee and thinking about happiness. Real happiness, not the pretend kind I'd had with Eric. The kind that came from knowing yourself, respecting yourself, and refusing to settle for less than you deserved. I'd gotten my revenge on Eric in the most perfect way possible. I'd moved on. I'd thrived. I'd found love again with someone who treated me right. I'd built a life so good that his betrayal became nothing more than a footnote in my story. And that was worth more than any angry confrontation or vindictive action could have been. Isaiah came outside with his own coffee cup, hair messy from sleep. Morning, he said, kissing the top of my head. Morning, I replied, making room for him to sit beside me. What are you thinking about? He asked. How far I've come, I said. How different my life is now compared to 18 months ago. Better? He asked. So much better, I confirmed. I didn't think it could be, but it is. I'm glad, he said, taking my hand. You deserve every good thing. We sat together in comfortable silence, watching the world wake up around us. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. My life wasn't perfect. I still had moments where I struggled with trust. I still had days where the betrayal stung. But those moments were becoming fewer and farther between. I was healing. Moving forward. Building something new and beautiful from the ashes of what had been. Eric had destroyed our marriage, but he hadn't destroyed me. And in the end, that was what mattered most. I'd survived. I'd thrived. I'd won. And as I sat there with Isaiah beside me, the morning sun warm on my face, I knew without a doubt that my best days were still ahead of me. This was my new beginning. And it was just getting started.